Welcome to episode 10 of the Young Adult's Guide to Planet Earth, the podcast where we try to figure out life through good conversation. I'm your host, Clayton Hemrick, and joining me, as always, is Cyd Warren. What's up, Cyd?
Nothing much.
How's your day been?
Good. It's felt productive. I've drinking lots of coffee, and now I'm here to do a podcast, so I'm feeling good.
Nice. Yeah, I've had a good day as well. Hunter is not here this week. He is somewhere in the middle of the ocean on a cruise, which...
He's lucky. I wish I was out there with him.
I guess since he's not here, that means we can talk about him, and he can't be here to defend himself.
He can listen to the podcast and then come get us next week. So.
Yeah, we probably won't do that though. Today we're gonna be talking about passion versus practicality and what that means. But first, as always, we got the quote of the week. I gotta pull it off my phone. I forgot that I was doing this. Sorry. So this quote is from Oprah Winfrey, because why not, And also, I just found this 5 minutes ago because I forgot I needed a quote. Passion is energy. Feel the power that comes from focusing on what excites you. Good job, Oprah.
That's very
There's
relevant.
some nice words you put together. Yeah, passion is energy. That's like a very good descriptor of how I feel about passion, because when I'm passionate about something, I have a lot of energy in order to do it,
Yeah.
So yeah, let's, I guess, move into our main topic. So what you were the one who presented me with this passion versus practicality topic. What was going through your head when you presented this?
Yeah, it's something that that's always been relevant to me because I feel like, unlike most parents, my parents pushed me towards passion. And so I feel like, unlike most people, I had to bring my own practicality to the table.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people, to them, it's like they have their passions, and then, the people that are closest to them try to bring them back down to earth, try to make it practical. And we'll get more into that later. But yeah, for me, I've always struggled with passion and practicality because, something that's really important to me is making sure that, I can support myself. I've known what it's like to have a little bit of tough time financially. And so, when it comes down to it, I want to be financially stable. But at the same time, I consider myself a passionate person and somebody that, isn't just satisfied with, just the mundane. I want more out of life. And I do a good job of that. I think I do pursue things that make me happy. And I even when I have to do something that's not perfect, I find my own little oasis in that. Mm-hmm. And I'll talk more about that later too. And so I guess a long answer to your question is, it's just a current running theme that's been in my life.
Yeah. So real quick before we dive deeper, I'm going to read both the definition of passion and the definition of practicality, because we're kind of comparing and contrasting the two. Passion, strong and barely controllable emotion. So, like I was saying about the Oprah quote, that's how I feel about passion. When I'm passionate about something, I don't really think about it before I act. It's it's uncontrollable.
Yeah.
I just want to do this thing. And let me find the definition for practicality. Definition. Okay. So practicality, the quality or state of being practical. Okay, wait. Let me look at the practical the definition of practical, because that's going to give us a better idea. So practical is of or concerned with the actual doing or use of something rather than with theory or ideas. So what does that weird definition mean to you?
Well, so I feel like when you're passionate about something, you don't put as much thought into it.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, practicality is kind of the opposite of a passion, whereas sometimes a passion is something that is a theory, it's an idea, it's something that's spur of the moment, and it's a thought, and it gets you riled up, gets you excited. Because a lot of times, if you could see your passion in a practical sense, in a real life scenario, it's not as exciting. It's like people that, like we talked about in our episode of quick obsessions, how, one of the things that keeps us from sticking to something is that we have this great idea and we jump into it, and then we realize that there's a lot of work involved, and it's not as glamorous as we thought it was. And that's kind of where the weaknesses of passions come in, and that's why people, I feel like, are scared of passion and are, tend to like write it off because so many people fail at it. But that's just because people look at a passion as it is, just out of our brain, as something that's like exciting and fun, and you don't ever pay attention to the drawbacks.
Yeah.
But something else we'll get into in this episode is like how, a passion can be practical too. When it comes down to it, something that drives you can take a lot of work. It can be tough and you can be passionate about it, but it can also be a practical thing to where you can make a living on it, or you can produce results from it and not fail, because if you're passionate about something, then that just means you have more gas to go on with it.
Yeah, passion's like, since you're so into whatever it is, it doesn't feel like it could be productive or practical because you're so excited about it. And it's almost like, what if someone told you you could just like watch movies for a living or play video games for a living? Like, that sounds too good to be true.
Yeah.
But there are some passions that we have that are, doing them as a career or pursuing them, it's not too good to be true. It's actually something that takes a lot of work, and it's still going to be fun doing it, but it's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
Just because you have that passion doesn't immediately make the road, any less rocky.
Yeah. I was wanting to think like, I want to think about the two, because on the surface, and even when you read the definitions, they kind of seem like polar opposites. And yet I feel like, they can kind of be together, like I was sort of alluding to before. Like, what are your thoughts on, like where does the line draw? Like, is there a balance? Are they completely different? Like,
I think they're different, but my question is it practical to not have a passion? You know what I mean? Like,
I think that's just a lack of life.
Exactly. Like it's not practical to tell someone you can't have passions in life. You just have to live a practical life, very thoughtful and more structured life. Like that's not even a thing.
What about somebody that just discourages? Because like you'll rarely find somebody that says don't have passions, don't have thoughts that are exciting to you, but you will find people that somebody has a passion and they talk to the people that are close to them, the people they trust, and I feel like those are the people more often than not that will discourage that passion.
Yeah. Well, so I'd say historically, on average, pursuing a more practical career or practical path probably sees more secure and better results. Not that it always does, and maybe that's not even true. But when you have people that are close to you, like your parents or your significant other, and you're going back and forth on whether or not to pursue your passion project or to pursue a more practical career, since they're not passionate about the same thing, the only thing they want is your security and your safety.
Yeah.
And so it's totally reasonable for them even to discourage you from pursuing your passion. It's literally out of love. They're not doing it because they don't want you to do something you love for a living. They're doing it because they want you to be safe and secure.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I like I said, I came from a family that kind of encouraged passions to the point where I had to bring the practicality in myself. But, sometimes I think that we can create a balance between them where you can have your passion and it can be practical too. Or you can have something practical and bring passion into it. And I think what you mentioned about, is it practical to not have passion? No, I don't. I think everybody does. And I think some people get into the habit of just pushing it aside, where even if you're working a job that you're not passionate about, there's ways to incorporate your passion into it. Like if there's something that's you're passionate about, like say you really like social media and you're working for, give me an example of any company or something maybe like on the lower end.
I don't know.
Okay, let's say you're working at like a sub shop, a family owned sub shop.
Yeah, there you go.
bring your passions into that. Like, you're on always on social media, talk to the owner and say, hey, like, I love working here making subs and stuff, but I was wondering if maybe I could do some of this stuff on the side, and maybe you could pay me a little bit for it. They would probably love to hear that, and you're bringing something in that makes it better for you. And I think it's just about that balance, that perspective of like, I'm gonna make the best out of my scenario. I'm gonna let my passions be in my life, and not let practicality just say it's only me, nobody else. Like, there's room in this town for the two of them.
Yeah, and there's also the question of like, you don't necessarily have to mix passion with your job.
Yeah, that's true.
You can have a practical, kind of more mundane job that's just a means to an end. It's just a paycheck. Not to say you hate your job or anything. Like, maybe you even like your job, but then you pursue a hobby that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to passion and practicality, there has to be a balance.
Yeah.
And even though that balance doesn't have to happen necessarily with your work.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, because I'm just looking at this in terms of like, I've always thought about my future, and so like, I think that's a good perspective to bring in.
Well, I think something that me and you both have in common is that any passion we have, we want to figure out how to either turn that into a job or use that in our current work or pursue it as a career. And I don't know how other people think about it. Some other people might have a passion and they would never want to do it as a career. They want to keep those things totally separate. So the first question we have down here is always, wait, what's that supposed to say?
What? It is instead of is it.
It is always one or the other, or can they be together? So like, that's the question of like, yeah, they can be together, but do they have to be together?
No, I guess not. However, I do think if like, in a practical sense, you're spending 8 hours of your day being completely practical, being uninspired. I think that's something that you could remedy a little bit with just a little bit of effort, a little bit of,
Well, and I mean, and I say that, but there are so many people who get practical jobs and they go get their 4-year degree and just get a job and there's no passion behind it, and they just slip down this slope that they fall into this mundane life where they're not passionate about anything anymore. Work is just a means to an end, and I think I feel for those people. I'm sad for those people because I have a lot of passions in life, and they're kind of what gets me through the day. So I think we need to yearn to try to introduce passion into our lives if we don't have it.
What's like the safety for that, or what's a way to like negate that? Because I think as young people, even as older people, you always have that background fear that you're gonna grow up in the future, get uninspired, get bored, and settle. And what's something that we can like give ourselves a confidence in knowing that we're going to be above that? Is it just having that hobby on the side, or
I think the first step for that is being really self-reflective.
Yeah.
Sitting down and being honest with yourself, like, what do I love to do? What am I passionate about? Because I feel like a lot of people don't do that. Yeah. Their mind completely goes away from that because all they're trying to do is find a job, and that's totally understandable for people, because people with families, people with kids, people that live by themselves and have to pay rent. Yeah, money is important, obviously, but you need to, at some point, sit down and think, what am I passionate about? What can I pursue as a hobby, or what can I start to pursue as a career?
Yeah. What about people that, are like we're talking about, are kind of just feel stuck? Where do you draw the line between, I need to go get a new job, or I'm just looking at this from the wrong perspective? I actually have a job that has some flexibility and that I can actually learn to like, because in my life, I've had jobs before that, like, for instance, my family owns a real estate firm, and I worked, I would say, like 2 different times for them, and I failed both times because I came at it as an agent, and I'm not the sales type. And this time I came at it, I came at it with the knowledge that I'm going to devote a full schedule to this. This is going to be my full-time job. But I came at it more as like a marketing person because that's what I enjoy more. And I know that this is a family business, so the flexibility is like off the charts here. But having that different perspective, took a job that I dreaded and I hated, made me feel insecure and frustrated. because I didn't like it and I wasn't good at it,
Yeah.
to something that like I wake up and I'm excited for like the new ideas I can come up with, and in a way I've actually become passionate about a job instead of just like a one portion of that, just because it's something that I can see grow. And so
Yeah.
like, yeah, where do you draw the line between a job that
Mhm.
you can have flexibility to express yourself and one that is just dead end, and that's when you
Yeah, so like I say, the first step is figuring out that you even need passion in your life, and then I think the second step from there is like sit down and analyze what what you're doing in life. I mean, if you do have a job already, sit down and analyze, is there a way that I can introduce passion into this job? And sometimes the answer is going to be no.
Yep.
And you have to figure out how to pursue passion outside of work, and maybe pursue a different hobby.
which can be hard.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about before the podcast, how we've started working and having busier schedules from the holiday season, and we've actually put to the side some of our hobbies, because we favor, after a hard day's work, we just want to like do mindless brain numbing things.
Yeah.
And I know that goes for me 100%. So sometimes it can be difficult to have that hobby, but like
Yeah.
I think it's important. I think that's where we're getting to. Like it's important to have that passion in your life, that little bit of something that is a freedom for you, even if it feels inconvenient, it feels like exhausting, and you get to the end of the day and you're like, I don't
Yeah.
feel like it. There's freedom in doing something that is yours.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to treat like hobbies. I guess they're meant to be like fun and like, yeah, this is what I'm excited to do, but sometimes they can be a slog.
Yeah.
Like if your hobby is like going to the gym and lifting weights, sometimes you don't want to go to the gym and lift weights. Even if your hobby is playing video games, there's some days you just don't feel like playing video games.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying if you don't feel like playing video games, you should force yourself to play video games, but I think you gotta maybe even reevaluate what your true passions are if you're in that type of state. Because, like we read the definition of passion, it's like an uncontrollable emotion. If you're truly passionate about something, I don't think you're gonna question whether or not you want to spend time on it this day.
Yeah.
So maybe even reevaluate what you're passionate about. And I'll say another thing. A lot of people that I know, we're so young, some people don't find their passions until much later in life.
Yeah, that's true.
But what I'm trying to say here is always be looking for it.
Yeah.
Because even if you're not meant to find your passion until you're 30 or 40, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be looking for it in your early 20s.
And experimenting, because
Yeah.
you never know. And I think another way to measure a passion is by what you get out of it. Like with this podcast, sometimes, like today was a little bit of a struggle because my fiance wanted to hang out, and I'd worked all day, so I have to drive a good bit to get here, but like when I get here and by the time I'm done with the cast, like I just feel refreshed, and I think that's a good way to like tell what's a passion or something that's even past passion. There's something that's like good in your life.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what comes down to like why we're giving passion any weight here, because it brings good fruit out of you. It makes you more productive as a person. It gives you this energy that like we need food, like we need sleep to give us energy. We need a passion to give us mental energy and that excitement for life that is literally the ingredient for so many important things, like a good relationship, a happy outlook on it and yourself and everything. Like it's the ingredient to all these things in life that are important.
Yeah. It's interesting you said relationships, because a lot of times you can just find your passion in your significant other, where maybe they're who gives you that passion and energy in life, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Where if you want to pour out all you can into them and make them your passion, that's really cool. So what are some instances that we need to favor practicality over passion?
I think a lot of times practicality can just be a disguise for making money.
Yeah.
I think that it is important in life to have some source of income, because otherwise you don't have the things you need to buy a house, or not that you need to buy a house, but like to have a roof over your head and to have food in your body, you need money for that. So like when it comes down to it, I think incorporating practicality in any way that you make money is important. However, I don't think you should come at most decisions in life from the money perspective. I do think like you can take that road, but I think a lot of times the happier road comes from when you don't look at the numbers, but you look at who you're going to be at on the other end of it. Like for instance, I had a professor, and she told me about the story of a person who had two jobs. One of them paid higher than the other, but she went and interviewed with both companies, and she found the one that had really good values, and that was a company that she believed in, paid less, and the other company was just kind of like this, quick, make their money, drop the people on the way out. Like they don't respect their customers, they don't respect the world, and she chose the lower pay. And I think that's how we should make our decisions in life, based on who am I going to be on the other end of this? Am I going to be a dried out, frustrated person that has more money than you know what to do with, and you can't even enjoy spending your money, or somebody that might have to work a little harder just because you don't have as much, but you're fulfilled?
Yeah.
And that's so much more value. How much would you pay to be a fulfilled, happy person if it was monetary? I feel like it would be at like in the billions of dollars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So basically what you're saying by that, and I believe it too, is that sometimes it's more practical to pursue the passions.
Yeah, and I think that not always saying like the only way to be happy is to pursue your passions.
Mm-hmm.
I think you just shouldn't, what's the word? You shouldn't cut yourself short. You should respect yourself enough to say, this is going to make me happier, and I value my happiness more than some extra cents.
Yeah.
Consider like looking at it like that, as of what it takes from you to work somewhere or to earn this money, and adding that factor in. So it's not just money, it's money and your mental health and your time you get to spend with other people.
Yeah.
All when you factor more in, some jobs that pay a lot, like all of a sudden look so unappealing.
Yeah. I'll give an example. This past Sunday at church, this guy spoke and shared his story, and at the end of it, the pastor shared with us that after this guy had been through this struggle in his life, he was offered a promotion at his job to double his pay and like give him a signing bonus and all this stuff. And the guy went home and told his wife, like, they've offered me double pay, they've offered me a signing bonus, but I'm not taking it. And he said there was a girl who he worked with in that department or whatever that he wanted to lead to Christ. And he turned down double his pay and a signing bonus because he wanted to, his passion at that point was to help lead her to Christ.
Yeah. So what was the price of him not taking that? It was a difference of double in pay. That was part of the cost of him taking that. But it was also potentially a soul.
Yeah.
Which you can't put a value on somebody's soul.
So, like you're saying, and like I'm saying, sometimes the more practical decision in life is to choose to follow your passions, not necessarily to follow the conventionally practical thing, which would be take the higher paid job.
Yeah.
There are definitely times where practicality trumps passion. When it comes to a lot of things, relationships, having strong relationships. Sometimes you have to be practical. Sometimes you have to act practically in that. But they're in the same sense, and probably just as much, you need to pursue passions in order to strengthen relationships. So, I mean, I think that's one of the big points I'm trying to make, is that there needs to be a really healthy balance there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you're making decisions based off of money alone, then that's bad.
Yeah.
I think that's the worst version of practicality. Just like passions has its worst side, when somebody gets super passionate about something, invests money into it, and then just drops it after putting any work into it.
Yeah.
So does practicality, in the sense that if you're only focusing on money, then no, you're not going to be fulfilled in the way you want to be. Money does not bring happiness.
Yeah.
It facilitates happiness, but there's so many ways to get to the amount of money you need for happiness, other than sacrificing everything else in your life for that money.
So basically, we need to restructure the way we view practicality.
I think so.
Where we don't need to say, sometimes the more practical, quote unquote, based on our old definition, is no longer the more practical, because we've restructured our definition of practicality.
Yeah. I think that's important, and I'm not saying that as like some teacher that's trying to tell everybody like this is how it is, understand this. Like this is something I'm figuring out as well, like as we're talking, and it just makes a lot of sense when you put it this way. You know, it's the world makes us want to think that we make decisions based off of one factor, and that's smart, and that factor being money. That's so dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Like when it comes down to it, like it's just dumb.
Yeah.
Like think about the money you're gonna have in your lifetime. Some people are gonna have a lot more than others, and some people who have a lot less are gonna have a lot more in the end. Money is something that is so manipulable, and depending on how you use it, you can be rich or poor. A poor person can be rich if they manage their money well. A rich person can be poor if they don't. And so, like, money isn't the issue here.
Yeah.
It comes down to who we are, how responsible we are with that money. And I feel like how responsible we are correlates with our happiness level and the respect we have for ourselves and the people around us. If you have a happy life, have a family that you have to look after, you're not going to be frivolous with your money.
Yeah.
And if you're not happy, you feel like you have to spend money to make yourself happy. So, like, in a lot of ways, the financially intelligent decision is choosing the non-financially appearing decision. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Because if you're chasing money, you're going to get what you asked for. You're going to get money, and then you're not going to know how to spend it, and you're going to try to use your money to buy the other thing you don't have, which is happiness. But if you kind of circle around and you're smart with it, and you instead of pursuing the money, you look at all the factors. You look at your faith. You look at your family, even if you don't have one yet. I don't have one yet, and I factor that in every decision I make.
Yeah.
And you look at yourself, your own mental health. Respect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Introspect. Look into yourself. You look at all the factors, because the least important factor in any equation in your life is money. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
That's how it should be, but that's not how it is. It's really unbalanced, even in my life, and it's like a revelation I'm having. Like, stop that.
Yeah.
It's detrimental.
Yeah. So let's go through some of these points that you made. So 1 point, reasonable expectations, so to be real with yourself.
Yeah, I think we've talked about passion and how it's just this great thing, but if you have unreasonable passions, if your passion is like, I just love sniffing the carpet, like that's a horrible example, but I was looking at the carpet and it just popped into my head. You know what I mean? Like everybody can think of an.
What if your passion is like robbing the convenience store?
Yeah, exactly. Like you got to be real with yourself. Like when it comes down to it, you're responsible yourself, so take responsibility. Be real.
Well, that's where you factor in the practicality to how you think about passion, because you have to reflect on what your passions are. And what do you think about carpet sniffing?
Yeah, it's just so random. That was a horrible example, but I'm sure it made somebody laugh. It made me laugh.
So there's like this scale of like robbing the convenience store for a living versus being an artist.
Yeah.
Well, being an artist is much more practical.
Yeah. Well, in that case,
because you're not doing a crime.
Yeah.
But like, okay, for most people, compare being an artist with being a lawyer.
Yeah.
A lot of people would say being a lawyer is a more practical path to take, because it's it's always good money, blah blah blah. So it's like you've got this big scale of practicality, but the point is, you can be anywhere on that scale.
Yeah.
As long as you're pursuing your passions. I'm not saying if your passion is to rob a bank, I'm not saying do that. I'm saying you got to weigh it.
Yeah.
And figure out where you are on that scale.
Yeah, and I have something farther down, but I talking to the people that you're close to is important, because they like Clayton mentioned, they care about you and they're gonna give you an honest opinion. Sometimes I feel like that opinion though is based out of a fear of love. Like they fear that you won't be all that you can be because you're going after something that's not as conventional. And I think that fear sometimes can influence a correct decision. I think sometimes the decisions should be encouragement.
Yeah.
But I feel like sometimes the fear and the love that we have for that person gets in the way.
Yeah.
And so that's why over to the side here I have, talk to strangers about it.
Yeah.
Get an outside get an outside opinion, and really assess it. If it's something you're serious about, give it the time, give it the respect that you would give to go give a job interview.
Yeah, I think that's why the internet's such a cool place.
Yeah.
Because you can talk to strangers and you can get advice from people that they don't necessarily, not that they don't care about you, but they don't personally know you. They don't love you.
Yeah.
And they can a lot of times give you the best advice.
Yeah.
But even when you're talking to people really close to you, say you're talking to your parents or your girlfriend or whatever, your boyfriend, yeah, take their advice, but also reflect on it.
Mm.
Listen to what they say and ask yourself if, kind of question them. Not necessarily to their face, but take what they say to you and then take it with yourself and kind of question it. And sometimes you'll question it and you'll agree with it. Because sometimes they give great advice and keep you from doing dumb things. But sometimes they're just saying it like out of love and out of fear, like you said.
Well, and just a side note, I look to my family for everything. I'm just kind of in the specific niche scenario where, we're talking about passions. I feel like sometimes it's easy for family members to give what I would consider bad advice, which is saying, "Oh, you can't really make money on that." Well, there's been millions of people in the history of the world that have proven that you can make money from what you're passionate about. In fact, most of the people that do that are the ones that end up making a lot more money than they normally would have made, which isn't the right perspective either if you're coming into a hobby or a passion.
Yeah.
It's a balance, but you get the point.
So let's go in, now that you mentioned that, let's go into some things in our lives as good examples. And I want to start by saying there was a point in my life where I wanted to be a YouTuber. I wanted to do the online thing where I did social media and YouTube and Twitch streaming and all that type of stuff. I just wanted to try to make money online somehow. And I told my parents this, and I gave them some statistics. I told them some YouTubers I follow and gave them statistics on how much money they were making, on how many followers they had. And I was coming at this from a passion to build a community and to just kind of reach people with a good message. I saw these people with millions of subscribers. I was like, if I had an audience of even 100,000 that I could give positive messages to, how cool would that be?
Yeah.
The problem that I ran into was I was thinking about the money. Because at this point in my life, I was like, how am I going to make money in life? I didn't know what I wanted to do for a career, and so I just went towards this thing thinking it would make me money. Well, come to find out, and I knew this before, making money online is incredibly hard.
Yeah.
Once you get there, it gets easier. Once you have your following and whatever. But, so, I got some practical advice from my family. I talked to my parents, and they were, and even Mackenzie is, my fiance is, who finally convinced me to pursue what I'm pursuing now in IT. And I've found a passion in it. I used to be passionate about computers, strayed away from that, and then because of the advice that Mackenzie gave me, came back to it, and now I've found my passion again.
Yeah.
So sometimes you get really good advice from
Do you feel
loved ones.
the passion that you were pursuing almost led you to that IT, or was it just strictly unrelated? Because I think
it's
sometimes
very related, because a lot of the things I was doing research into were really technical, and I
Yeah.
always had that technical background. It was always in the back of my head, and always in something I was doing had something to do with IT and tech and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it was always there. I just needed somebody kind of nudge me in that right direction.
Yeah, I have a perspective that I'm religious. I believe in God, and I think God leads us, and I think He doesn't always lead us on the direct path, because we would never grow and we would miss a lot. You think about yourself on vacation, especially with my dad, he would sometimes take the most convoluted routes just to see some of the highlights that you would miss if you just took the highway.
Yeah.
And I didn't appreciate it much as a kid because I was just excited to get there, but now I'm finding myself doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same. If there's ever something you're passionate about, considering that you have time for it, go after it. Instead of doing something else, give yourself a little time, because that is probably going to tie into something. And if it doesn't, you've learned about something and you've grown from it. And in your scenario, the thing that kept popping into my head is that passion that you had sounded a lot like it flowed right into what your passion is now.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think that that's kind of by design.
Definitely. It's more about the journey than it is the destination.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that you're signing up for when you pursue your passion.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times we're passionate about things that aren't easy. So you got to be ready to have a hard journey.
Yeah.
And maybe you never get there. Maybe you fail. But like being able to say that you pursued your passion, and even if you fail, being able to say that you pursued it is like way more than some people can say.
Yeah.
And that in itself isn't a failure. That in itself is a success.
Yeah. Definitely.
So
This next line is from my perspective, where you're treating a passion like a job and turning something that you're passionate about into something that can create money, which is very doable. You have to be the right person, but like I said earlier too, you can take a job that you're not passionate about and bring passion into it. But any passion that you do and you're serious about it and you want to turn it into like anything that can produce results or money, I feel like you have to treat it like a 9-to-5 job.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's funny how people give so much respect, and my dad brought this up in me. They give so much respect to these like companies just because they pay them.
Yeah.
It's like that misweight of how much weight we give to money shows itself in that. Because like I've had this thing where I've been disrespectful to my dad before, and he tells me, he's like, shouldn't you give me as much respect as you would an employer? Mm-hmm. And yet you wouldn't smart off to them like that. And he says, why? And I'm like, well, because I'd get fired, or they wouldn't let me come back.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, that, why shouldn't you treat your passion with the same respect as some worthless job that doesn't have any meaning other than lining some rich person's pockets with more money?
Yeah.
So treating a job like a 9-to-5, if you're later slack at a job, you're going to get fired.
Yeah.
If you're later slack on your passion, then you just fail, and you just feel bad about yourself. But it's because you didn't give it the energy. And this is all, I want to stress that this is all from the perspective that a passion is something that you really want to develop and grow with. Yeah. If it's just something that's a hobby and that's fun for you, obviously it's so much more lax than that.
Yeah. Well, it's easy. If it's a hobby and you're just having fun with it, like I'd say playing video games is a hobby, but I don't need to structure it because I'm not looking to get anything out of it.
However, for example, with video games, if you were to want to, I've heard so many people say they want to turn video games into a career. It's possible. People have proved that it's possible.
Yeah.
However, you got to be willing to offset your passion with some things you're not as important, crazy about. Because if you ever wanted to be in video games, let's say you wanted to be a content creator.
Yeah.
Say you're passionate about playing the video games. What about the recording? What about the editing? Yeah. What about the marketing? What about the communications with fans, like messaging people? There's probably, for everything that you're passionate about that surrounds your passion, 10 things that you're not crazy about.
Yeah.
But you have to be willing to sacrifice.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. Because with me wanting to be a YouTuber and everything, I got a taste of that this past semester when I had to start a YouTube channel for a social media class I was in. Back when I wanted to be a YouTuber, I didn't necessarily knew what it took, and I didn't even try to do any of that stuff. It was a lot of like research and like figuring out how am I get started with this, and I never really did any of it. So when I took the social media class and had to start a YouTube channel, I found out how really difficult it is. I mean, there's YouTubers who upload videos every day.
Yeah.
And I only had to upload once a week, and I found that to take hours of figuring out what I'm going to recording the video, editing the video, and then promoting the video through Twitter, through Instagram. Like one video is 8 hours of work. So like I used to not have as much respect as I do now for actual YouTubers. I'm like, oh, they're just having an easy life, but like it's a 9-to-5 job. Yeah. If you're a full-time YouTuber, it's a 9-to-5 job. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure, they're passionate about it, and that's the only thing that drives them to do it.
Yeah.
But if you're just someone who wants to be a YouTuber and you think it's easy, like it's not. Yeah. And that's how most passions are. If you want to turn it into a career, it's going to take a lot more work than you probably realize.
Yeah. Which is a good thing, because
you've got to use that passion to energize you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's been, if I'd have heard this, back a long time ago, I'd have saved myself a lot of self-frustration, because I've in the past, pursued things that I ended up failing at, and I always thought it was my fault.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent it was, but at the same time I just didn't know that, some things you literally take more time than a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
But the only reason that you see other people doing them and being happy about it is because they love it. And that's what it comes down to, is like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you're, it doesn't matter. It's just like, are you passionate about it? Does it make you want to wake up in the morning? If it's a 14-hour day and this person loves it, he's better off than the person that works 2 hours a day
Yeah.
and is just miserable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I forgot what I was gonna say there. I just had a total brain fart. But literally,
happens,
dude, I was just listening to what you were saying, and I totally forgot what I was gonna say. But pursuing your passions can turn into a job. Like, what was I gonna say, man?
I don't know, dude. I was talking about how somebody that works 14 hours
it had
can be
nothing to do with what you were
happier.
gonna say, because
Okay.
I thought about it a long time ago. Anyways, let's just move on to the next thing.
Yeah, one last thing. I think it's important to redefine how you analyze everything in life. Like
Yeah.
we talked about with, analyze things not from the money perspective. Well, think about that person that works 14 hours and that's happier than that person that works part-time and is just miserable because they don't have
Yeah.
anything that brings them that joy. Redefine what you consider. Don't come at something and say, well, that's a 14-hour job. That'll never make me happy.
Yeah.
Look at it from the perspective of who am I going to be at the end of this? Because I
Yeah.
don't think it's even right to say, is this going to make me happy? I think if we did that, everybody would end up chilling at home and relaxing.
Yeah. So what I was gonna say,
Oh, good, you got it.
yeah, is that if pursuing your passions was easy, everybody would be doing what they're passionate about, and everybody would be happy.
Yeah.
But it's not easy.
No.
So that's why there are a lot of people who are miserable and who don't like their jobs and aren't happy in life.
That's easier. It's easier to just give up and be miserable.
And some people settle with that.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're miserable, it's that they're content.
Yeah.
They're content with just working 9 to 5, going home, sitting on the couch, watching TV, going to bed, doing it all over again.
And I think there's some people that are like that, but at the same time, I think if somebody doesn't have that thing in their life that really makes them want to wake up in the morning, I think there's that little voice in the back of their head. I think, because I know I've had it myself. Everybody has that voice that speaks to them.
Well, that's what we were saying at the very beginning of this, is like, if you are that person, you should probably find a passion.
Yeah.
Because everybody that's on this earth was put here for a reason. And
Yeah.
I think if you're just going to a 9 to 5 job and then you're going home and not pursuing anything, or if your 9 to 5 job isn't your passion or whatever, I don't think that's your purpose on this earth necessarily.
See, that's another good way to weight things by, is like, who am I going to be at the end? Well, what about, am I bringing life into the world? Am I doing something that helps somebody? Am I making a difference? Like, weigh things by that. Don't weigh things by money. Don't weigh things by happiness. Don't weigh things by how you feel.
Most things people are passionate about affect other people. Like, can you think of anything that anybody's passionate about that is purely selfish?
Not usually, no.
I mean, when we're talking about these like typical passion versus practicality type things, with like, I want to be an artist, I want to be a filmmaker. People that make films do it so other people can watch them and be entertained.
Yeah.
People that are artists draw pictures and paintings so people can enjoy them.
And those are the kind of things that last a lifetime.
Yeah.
Or last hundreds of thousands of years. But the people that make lots of money, it goes to their kids, and then their lives get messed up because they just have all this money and they argue over it. And like, that's what money brings you. It just brings hatred and stress and division.
I will say that I can understand, say you're a father of 2 kids and like you're a really good businessman, like your passion can become making their life easy, paying their way through college. Like, that's something and that's what drives you to go to work every day.
And money is not always like that. I'm taking the extreme on money right now because I'm really trying to just like fight it, even in myself.
Yeah.
But obviously, money doesn't always cause division and stuff.
But the thing about that is, because like, I mean, people say money's the devil for a reason. Like, take that example that I just used. In that example, maybe through that he didn't teach his kids passion.
Yeah.
They just like had an easy life. They got their college paid for. They got everything they wanted, and then they turn into that person who doesn't have passion.
Yeah.
So, I think money's going to lead to that.
Yeah. I think money always has just, it's never a good thing if it's focused on completely. If it's
Yeah.
a tool, it's not. You don't worship a tool. A tool is used to do something, perform something. It's not something that you focus on.
Yeah, just imagine a society where we didn't have money. Everybody would be pursuing their passions, right?
Yeah.
Because there's no disincentive not to.
Yeah, because by the time everybody got bored of sitting on their butt and doing nothing, they would default to what made them happy to do. Because when it comes down to it, everybody needs something that makes them feel like they've had a purpose, like they've done something.
Yeah.
I've had times, especially like when you're in school and stuff, and you get off for the summer, you want to go back to school. You want that structure. You want that something that makes you feel like you've done something good.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a human need.
It's definitely a human need, and there are people, and I know people personally that are content with just going home after their 9 to 5, not pursuing anything they're passionate about. But they also, when they accomplish something great, they get that euphoric feeling.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, why wouldn't you want to chase that?
Yeah.
And I can't wrap my head around that. And maybe it's that they keep convincing themselves they can't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what it comes down to, is like, people convince themselves that they can't pursue their passions because they're scared, or they get talked down by their families. I mean, there's just so many factors in the way.
I think that is well said, and I think, just to add to that, respecting yourself. Give yourself the amount of time that you give time and energy to these people in your life that don't matter, that they're at a job, and that the only purpose is for you to put money in your pocket. And that's a great thing, and it's important to work hard in life and to work a job, and your job doesn't always have to be fun and games, but respect yourself as much as you respect all the people around you, the people that you put a happy face on for. Give yourself twice that amount of respect, because if you don't, then you're not going to respect yourself, and that leads you to being not unhappy.
And just be honest with yourself, because a lot of times you just convince yourself you can't do something because you're convincing yourself, but you're capable of way more than you think you are.
Yeah.
And
that's true.
That comes with confidence. I have a lot of confidence. I know what I'm capable of, but I know so many people who aren't confident enough in themselves to drive themselves to pursue their passions. But like, I see them and they're like super smart people, and they have this desire and they have this plan, and everything's going right, but the only thing holding them back is themselves.
Yeah.
So you just gotta be real with yourself, and like, just try to gain some confidence in the fact that, everybody that's been successful has been through a lot of failure.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And that's the one thing that you've got to stop being scared of, is failure.
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing you can learn from.
Yeah.
So once you stop being scared of failure, it really opens up a world of possibilities.
Yeah. Word.
Well, I think we're about at time. I don't really know. I don't know. I can't remember when we started.
Well, I mean, I think we conveyed. I think we kind of rounded out the topic.
Point.
Yeah.
And we're missing Hunter, so we can cut off 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm curious what he would have to say. Maybe next time when he's on, we'll kind of just ask him a few questions that we, for like 10 minutes, and just see what he has to say about it.
Yeah, well, Hunter's definitely expressed how he's kind of like in the same boat where, you come to a point in your life where you have to make those tough decisions.
Yeah.
And if you're not making the decision based off the right factors, or based off of all the factors, if you're leaving out the important factors, then you're going to make a bad decision.
And I'll say, too, me and you are early 20s. If you're in early 20s, if you're in high school, if you're in college, these are the times that you need to take risks and try to pursue these passions, because when you're older and you have kids and you have a family that you need to support, it's going to be a lot harder to quit your job and go pursue your rock climbing passion.
Yeah.
Like, because you got to pay for your kids' food.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's why I'm passionate about this right now, is because I'm at a point in my life. But that isn't to say that you can't pursue passions at those ages. You just have to go about it in a different way.
Yeah.
You have to schedule your time around your family and around your loved ones and everything. But yeah.
Cool.
Well, that was a good combo.
I agree. Well, I guess we'll see everybody next week.
Yeah.
Godspeed and good conversations.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Young Adult's Guide to Planet Earth. We hope you enjoyed the conversation.
If you want to join the conversation, make sure to join us on Twitter at Young Adult Guide and Instagram at Young Adults Guide.
And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell if you want to be notified. Like, comment, and join the conversation.
Talk to you next week.